sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. I was talking to my buddy, John Palumbo, this morning. Some of y'all know John. He and I do some work together. We have a program that we both train. Anyway, he's a great guy. He's very thoughtful. We've got kids about the same age. And so we talk about our kids a lot. He's got a boy. And he said that applying for college is so different today than it was 800 years ago when he and I applied to college, because the kids today are so used to instant gratification, right? Where everything happens immediately, where you go, you want to do things through social media, through parents and how we raise children. Everything is instant gratification, right? You get a yes. Your hope, most of the life, a lot of times people's lives, kids' lives is yes, 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 yes. What they hear, the occasional no. But generally, for a lot of us, it's ask for something. It's often the answer is yes. And pretty quickly. So what we talked about was with college, and his son's applying to 9 or 10 colleges. And he said, you got to mail your applications off by November 15th. And then you may not hear again until February or March. He said, but the difference then versus now is when we were going to college, you got an envelope in the mail at some time, right? Maybe it was February, maybe it was March. If you got a thick envelope, it meant you were in. If you got a thin envelope, it meant thank you so much for applying. Try again next year. And so you just had to wait. And a lot of things back then, you just had to wait. So I started thinking about it as we finished that conversation about how does instant gratification play into sales? How does that work? How if people have a need for instant gratification, is that a plus or a minus in sales? Now, the gut reaction would be, it's a minus because it's a hard business, it's a long game, and all those things are true. But suppose you're able to look at it at the end of each meeting you had with somebody, each sales call, you could get instant gratification. What do I mean by that? Well, you can either get a yes, right? Or you can get a no. Yes, great. Means we take another step together, close the deal, do whatever. No means we stop. Either of those can give us instant gratification. What the hell do you mean, Walker? Well, when I say that, what I mean is, sure, you can get a yes, but also getting a no at the first meeting or the second meeting is a shit ton better than getting one at the 6th meeting or never getting a return phone call, right? That sucks. So one of the things we teach people here at No BS Sales is set yourself up all the time in every sales call to get yeses or nos to something. And I know what some of y'all are thinking. I've got a very long sales cycle. We sell a complicated product. It takes 17 meetings. Well, maybe it does, or maybe it doesn't. I had a client that we took on about 15 years ago, and they swore to me sometimes their sales cycle was as long as 10 years. 10 effing years. 10. And after we started working together for a couple of months, we realized their sales cycle was really only 3 months. They just started 9 years and 9 months too early, right? We're giving away information way too soon. We're talking to people that aren't qualified to buy from us. When I say qualified, maybe they have the money, but they're not ready yet. Right? They're not ready. So one of the things I teach my clients, and let's see if this works for you. Think about at the end of a sales call, let's say it's your first sales call. If somebody trusted you 100%, let's pretend it was maybe it's a good example for some people, a bad one for others. Maybe it was your brother that you really love, and he loves you, and he trusted you 100%. and you were the only person he was talking to, what could be the absolute best case scenario that he could do? Let's pretend he's your brother, he's your best friend, he's in control, he trusts you 100%, he needs what you have. What's the best case scenario for in most situations? They can buy the damn thing, right? They can sign an agreement to buy it. Absolute best case scenario. Maybe that never happens to you, but could it happen? And if you really think about that honestly, chances are, a lot of times, that could happen. It really could. Now, some of us, maybe you have an extra step in there, right? Where somebody, maybe the ideal outcome is that somebody hires you to do a study, or they hire you to do some kind of evaluation, or they pay for you to come in and do some kind of analysis or survey, right? So we call that, you've heard me talk about this before, it's a monkey's fist. I don't need to explain all that too much, but a monkey's fist is something small that you sell before you sell something big. It's an old sailor's term. It's a way that they could get the big ropes, sometimes over the mast and sometimes on the dock, right? You take you take a string with a weight on it. Here's what one looks like this. Take a string with this weight on it. You tie a string to this, and then you tie the other end of the string to the rope. And so you throw the weighted ball with the string over the top, and then you can pull the ball and the string, which then pulls the big rope over wherever the hell you're trying to throw it. Monkey's fist, sailor's term. Google it. You have those in sales, right? Where something you're probably giving away for free right now. Ultimately, what you're doing is getting paid to do your proposal. Getting paid to do your proposal. And so at the end of your first sales call, the end of the first cycle, we're deciding whether or not they hire you to do X. And again, it's probably something you were giving away for free before, and you're probably doing that because everybody else in your business does it too. Well, if everybody else is doing it, why the hell would you? Nobody can tell that you're better till they see that you're different. So maybe one of the ways you're different is what you sell and not what you give away, or you sell and don't give away. So as you're preparing for your next sales call, I want you to think about, before you go into the meeting, what's an ideal outcome? What's a best case scenario that if this person really trusted you and had pain or a strong need to buy what you had, they had to fix the problem. What's the best case scenario? What's ideal, right? For some of us, it can be a one-call close, no matter how expensive your product is. If somebody really trusted you, that's what could happen. Then, in your mind, you can have a secondary, which is a good outcome, right? This is not ideal, but it's good. It's a step forward where both sides are showing commitment. So maybe your ideal outcome is you get a contract and a check. Maybe your ideal outcome is that somebody hires you to do a study and evaluation of some kind, right? That's ideal. Maybe good is you have a second meeting with all the decision makers in the room, and at that point, you'll get a yes or no to the contract or the monkey's fist, right? A yes or no to that. Now, no is my second favorite word. I hear it all the time. No means, here's why we should celebrate no's. You don't have to waste your time there anymore. All this crap about salespeople having to be persistent and hunt people down until they get a yes, that's terrible advice. Terrible advice. I would suggest instead, get a no. Go for no. If somebody can't tell you yes, their answer is no. So you're saying, Walker, what does this mean? What are you talking about? What are you trying to do? So here's what you do is you decide before you go on the call, what's an ideal outcome and what's a good outcome. And then below that, what's something that is, you're going to call it a no. Right? So before your meeting, you decide that an ideal outcome is that you get a contract and a check. A good outcome is that you get hired to do some kind of a study. And anything less than that, you're going to call it a no for now. So when you go into your meeting and you meet with a prospect, or hell, if you're doing this really the right way, when you call your prospect to talk about what the meeting ought to be about, you say, typically at the end of a meeting like this, we're deciding whether or not you give us a check, sign a contract. Will you be okay if we figure that out at our meeting tomorrow? Give them advanced warning. Give them notice that this is what we're looked to happen at the next meeting. You'll be surprised because sometimes, every now and then, somebody will say, sounds great. All right? Other times, maybe more often, you'll hear, hell no, I can't do that. And you say, okay, that's fine. Other times, sometimes with folks to figure out whether or not you hire us to do a study or an evaluation or whatever the hell you want to call it, a deep dive. You okay if we figure out whether or not we take that step together? It means you might spend somewhere between, I don't know, whatever it is in your world, $2,000 and $10,000. You okay if we decide yes or no to that? If they say, hell no, I'm not doing that, you say, well, what should we figure out whether or not we do? What should we decide by the end of the meeting? Because to you, it should be perfectly normal that somebody decides something at the end of a meeting, because who are we supposed to be calling on? Every single one of us? Decision makers. So what's their job? Make decisions. So if they come up with something, if they say, well, I want you to just come in here and give me all your information, I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of questions, then I'll decide if we ever talk again. You can make a business decision. I would tell that person, I think we've got nothing to talk about, no reason for me to waste your time. Here's what I found every single time. I bet, I can't be 100%, but I bet it's 99% of the time. If somebody is arguing with me about what we're going to decide by the end of the meeting, if we can't get an agreement to yes or no to something at the beginning of the meeting, they're not going to buy anything. They're just not. And how much time do you want to spend with somebody, with a prospect, who is not going to buy anything from you at this point? You don't want to give them a whole bunch of free consulting. That doesn't help you. Why in the hell would you waste 2 or 3 hours or 20 minutes with somebody that's not going to buy, that won't even tell you yes or no? Before you go in your meeting, have an idea what an ideal outcome should be. Have a backup plan for what is a good outcome. And then also understand, if you can't get an agreement to decide yes or no to either of those things, call it over. You can have instant gratification because at the end of the meeting, you can know whether or not you're going to take a step forward. If we can't, and remember, we're not pushing for a yes. We just want a decision, yes or no. Either way, you win. Get a yes, great. The process moves forward. Maybe you get a check, whatever, you make the sale. Anything less than a yes, call it a no. Perfectly fine. You need to thank them for being straight with you. Even if they say shit like, well, I need to talk to my partner, or why don't you call me in a week, blah, blah, blah. That's a no, fellas, ladies. That's a no. Call it a no. Tell them, look, in this case, sounds to me like it's a no. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. They'll say, no, really, call me in a week. Say, well, I'll tell you what, if by tomorrow you're not sure it's a yes, if you're not saying, hell yeah, let's do this, let's do call this a no. Because really, a decision maker, how much time do they really need to make a decision? The decision not to make a decision is a decision in itself. Instant gratification, one of the best games in sales. I'm Walker McKay with No BS Sales School. You want to find out how this can work for you and your business? you may call 803-917-2817.
Thanks for listening to the OBS Sales School podcast. If you haven't already, please take 1 minute to write a quick review for the show. It really does make a huge difference. Also, subscribe to the show and please forward this episode to somebody else who needs to hear it. As a bonus for listening, I'm going to give you access to a free mini course, 7 expensive sales mistakes you're making and what you can do about it. Go to www.7salesmistakes.com and get access to the free mini course. That's the number 7salesmistakes.com. Thanks again for listening to the OBS Sales School podcast.